was I gonna say? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Emily and I love matcha. I love it so much, and that's basically what I talk about here on this channel, with a little splash of traveling, lifestyle, and other things that I love. But I really want this to be a space where you can learn about matcha, what good matcha is, what matcha powders you should be using, and everything in between. So for this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the matcha powders and hojicha powders that I have been loving in the month of July and have been gravitating towards more too. So I have 4 matcha powders and 1 hojicha powder. So let's get into each one of them. All right, starting off with our first powder, this is Little Ox's Genji Matcha. And if you are from California or have visited California, Little Ox Coffee is a really popular actually coffee shop. But I went there this year when I visited California and I got to try their matcha for the first time ever. And oh my goodness, it was the best one that I tried in my entire trip to California. It was so simple and the matcha flavor was just so good, and it really like imprinted on my brain. Like I remember clearly how good their matcha was. So they actually started selling their own matcha powder in their store. So they kindly asked if they could send me one to try, and let me tell you, it is just as good as the actual coffee shop, and the way that they make it, it's amazing. So this matcha powder, it was super smooth. There was like no bitterness, there was no astringency to it. It had more of like a roasted and like nutty aftertaste. It's not really like umami or vegetal. I couldn't really like taste those notes in this. It was just very smooth and kind of like earthy, but leaning more towards like tasting like hojicha more than like grass, if that makes sense. It tasted very like roasted and nutty, and especially when you drink it with milk, the creaminess just enhances like the roasted notes a lot more. And that is like one of my favorite profiles in matcha powders, is when it has like nuttiness or roastedness. And the fact that this is just so smooth and there's like no astringency, it's like the perfect drinking experience. And it just was so good. I really have to pace myself with this one because I will go through it in a week. Next up, we have 3 Tea Bowls, and this is their 100% asahi blend. 3 Tea Bowls is actually a newer brand of mine that I recently tried out. I found them like randomly looking on the internet for like different matcha brands to try, and this one stood out to me. And I was specifically intrigued by this company because they have an asahi matcha blend, which I think is actually really rare to find, because I was trying to search the specific like asahi cultivar on the internet, and this was like one of the few brands that had them. But if you have been following me on Instagram, when I first reviewed like Rocky's matchas, like all of their different cultivars, the asahi cultivar from Rocky's Matcha was my top favorite, and to this day it's probably one of my all-time favorite matchas, because the asahi from Rocky's Matcha tasted like ice cream, and like this is without any sweetener. It was just the powder and milk, but it tasted like vanilla ice cream, and it was so sweet, so creamy. And that's what made me think like maybe the asahi cultivar would be consistent like throughout. It's just the way that they, I guess, like grow it and like shade it and specifically like treat that specific cultivar. So I ordered the 3 Tea Bowls one, and let me tell you guys, it is the asahi cultivar. The asahi cultivar is now one of my favorite cultivars in matcha, because they do have like, if you've noticed in your different matcha powders, sometimes it will say like samidori or uji hikari. Like there are different cultivars that the matchas are like grown in essentially, and they each have like different flavor profiles. I've noticed in samidori it's like a little bit more nuttier, and then with asahi it's a lot sweeter and more like resembling ice cream and vanilla. This asahi blend, it It is so creamy. There is no bitterness at all. It's not vegetal. It's not really umami. It is super smooth. It is on the sweeter side. It's very slightly sweet. It's not obviously like going to be like sugary sweet. It's more of like a creamy vanilla-like sweetness. And a lot of you guys do ask me like what my recommendations are for sweet powders, and I always tell you guys the Rockies Asahi one, but now I will always recommend the 3 Tables Asahi one, and they are more expensive than like a normal matcha powder that's cultivated in like Samidori or the other ones. So Asahi blends are expensive due to its lower crop yield compared to the other blends, and it's also one of the more valuable cultivars, and I can see why, because the Asahi blends, they're so sweet and so creamy, and the ones that I've tried so far, like both of these, they're 2 for 2. They are amazing and probably top tier matcha. So it will be a lot more expensive than say like a normal one. Right, next up we have Ippodo's New Harvest Matcha. This is the newest matcha blend that Ippodo came out with, since it is currently that harvest time for it. But guys, this one is so refreshing. I tried it as an Americano, which is just matcha with water at first. And although I typically prefer drinking matcha lattes, I would not mind drinking this one as an Americano, because what I experienced it was so smooth. There was absolutely no bitterness. There was no astringency or like that dry mouth feeling. It was just so light and refreshing, and I loved the like intensity of the matcha flavor because it wasn't too much. So I feel like it matched perfectly with the Americano. And then when I drank it with the milk, like as I normally do, it still tasted very like high quality and absolutely like so smooth. But since this is like a lighter matcha profile, I think you would need to add a lot more like scoops if you are going to drink it as a latte, because the matcha flavor kind of like gets overpowered by the oat milk, just because this is more of like a refreshing and light profile. But overall, another good one from Ippodo. And then the next one we have is matcha.com, or matchakari on Instagram, their first harvest matcha. This is the big boy. It is 80 grams worth of matcha in here. So their first harvest blend is what I normally gravitate towards, and it's by far my favorite blends out of all their other matcha powders. And it's because this one I can taste like a little bit of roastedness, and this one is not bitter. It's super smooth. It's not really like sweet, I would say. It's more like a little bit earthier, but a little bit roasted and very smooth. I really appreciate this. I've been gravitating towards this blend in my daily matcha lattes because I feel like it has such a stronger matcha flavor than normal like daily drinking matchas. So I feel like this is like a step above it, where I personally like my matchas to be really strong. So I have been gravitating towards this one. They also have it in a smaller size. They also have it in like a 30-gram tin, but I have the bambucha one because it's so easy for me to go through these. Last, for my July favorites, we have Little Match Studios Hojicha powder. As you can probably see, half or more of this tin is already gone, and I just recently got it. But Little Match Studio, if I haven't talked about her already on my YouTube, her matcha powder is amazing as well, and she also makes a lot of like matcha accessories, like ceramics that she hand makes, and they are gorgeous. Her hojicha powder is amazing, and this is a newer product of hers that she just recently launched, because she has been selling her matcha for some time now. But her hojicha powder, it is so dark and deep and rich and super earthy, super roasted. And for me, like similar to matcha, I really prefer hojichas that have a deep and like intense flavor. And you can probably tell by the color, like it is a darker brown. Like some hojicha powders are lighter, so like the flavoring will be obviously a little bit lighter. But this one is a deeper brown, and it's so good. It's roasted, it's super nutty, and when you drink it like as a latte with like some sweetener, it kind of almost tastes like cocoa powder a bit. Like I get notes of like cocoa powder in it. So this one is one of my favorite hojicha powders of all time. In the month of July, I have been craving it more, sometimes more than matcha, which is crazy of me to say, but it is true. So I have been reaching for this hojicha powder through the month of July. All right, you guys, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my July matcha and hojicha favorites. I will be continuing this throughout the month, so stay tuned for the next one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!